Millionaire's shocking betrayal, saved mistress but left pregnant wife for dead at midnight. The air was thick with a suffocating tension that night, shadows clinging to the walls like secrets begging to be unearthed. A blood-red moon hung high above, casting an eerie glow over the luxury estate, where whispers danced between manicured hedges and the laughter of the wealthy bounced off the opulent marble. Inside, a twisted scene unfolded, one that would bring even the strongest hearts to a halt. Francis Lawson, a titan of industry, had always been a man of grand gestures. But tonight, he stood at the precipice of something far darker than anyone anticipated. The chilling truth crackled in the air: he chose his mistress, Violet, over his pregnant wife, Claire, and it felt wrong on every level. It was almost poetic the way he held Violet close, as if protecting a treasure, while Claire's cries echoed in the night, a haunting melody no one wanted to hear. His decision loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to drown them all in a downpour of betrayal, but strange happenings began to swirl around the estate. A sudden power outage plunged everything into darkness. The muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses fell silent, replaced by a tense, uneasy quiet. It felt as though the very walls were listening, cataloging every moment of this unfolding nightmare. Footsteps echoed down the hall, too fast, too frantic. Was it fear or was it rage? Anger twisted in the pit of Francis' stomach, knotted tight as he darted toward the main entrance, drawn by an urge he couldn't quite name. As he stumbled outside, frantic voices rose like a chorus, desperate inquiries and accusations thrown like daggers. "Where's Claire?" someone shouted. "What have you done?" The questions hung heavy in the air, underscoring the gravity of the moment. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The chill of uncertainty wrapped around Francis as he glanced back toward the darkened house, where shadows shifted and the silence felt alive. Had he truly left Claire for dead? His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage, each thump a countdown to whatever was waiting for him in the abyss. Just then, an anguished scream shattered the stillness, reverberating through him like a gunshot. No. Not like this. Who was it? What had happened in the dark? The moon bore witness as Francis stood frozen, the night air thick with dread. The answers lay in the shadows, whispering his name, and he could feel them tugging at the edges of his consciousness, refusing to let go. What would he find in that house when he gathered the courage to face the truth? The scream faded, swallowed up by the oppressive night. It lingered in the air like a ghost, gnawing at the edges of Francis' sanity. He took a hesitant step toward the doorway, the cold tile biting against his bare feet. The lights flickered back to life momentarily, but they only illuminated a scene of chaos. Cobwebs of fear wrapped tightly around his chest, squeezing the breath from his lungs. "Claire!" he called out, his voice cracking under the weight of desperation. Each syllable scratched at the back of his throat. The name felt foreign, tainted with guilt and regret. He forced one foot in front of the other, edging his way through the entry hall as shadows danced wildly against the walls. The once celebratory home now resembled a mausoleum, a chilling backdrop to the unfolding horror. Violet stood off to the side, her expression a mixture of shock and denial. What do we do?" she stammered, shifting from foot to foot, her eyes wide, reflecting the fear that mirrored his own. She reached for him, but he pulled away, his focus narrowing to the staircase, where Claire had last been seen. A flicker of movement caught his eye, a silhouette darting through the hallway. It was one of the staff, Emma, her face pale as she approached, eyes darting nervously. "Mr. Lawson. You need to see this." She gestured urgently toward the dimly lit lounge. Without waiting for a reply, Francis tore down the hall, heart hammering against his ribcage. The plush carpet muffled his footsteps as he entered the lounge, and his breath caught in his throat. There, sprawled across the expensive rug, lay Claire's phone, the screen cracked and smeared with something dark. He crouched down, his hands trembling as he picked it up. A single message was visible, the last one she had sent. "I know what you did. I'm not afraid." The words pulsed beneath his fingertips like a warning, sending chills down his spine. What happened to her? Panic clawed at him as he shoved the phone into his pocket, energizing his resolve. Emma's face paled further, her eyes glassy with tears. I don't know. We were in the kitchen, and then everything went dark. She was just here, Francis. I swear. His mind raced, thoughts spiraling in a chaotic dance. He couldn't let her be alone, not with the darkness creeping around them. "Where's the last place you saw her?" he demanded. By the terrace she was going to call for help, Emma stuttered, glancing back nervously as if expecting someone or something behind her. With each hurried step toward the terrace, dread pooled heavy in his stomach. What if he was too late? The tension of shared glances weighed on him, the whispers of the guests growing louder again, filled with accusations. A knot of guilt tightened around his throat. Francis burst through the terrace door, the night air slapping him like an icy wave. His eyes scanned the emptiness, searching for even a hint of Claire. The blood-red moon hung ominously above, a silent witness to the world he had shattered. Suddenly, a cry emerged from the shadows, desperate and echoing. It wasn't just Claire's voice, it was something deeper, an echo of betrayal that wrapped itself around the very marrow of his bones. "Francis." He turned, but time slowed, his breath freezing as realization struck him. This was more than just a night of recklessness. This was the start of something catastrophic. His pulse raced as he bolted toward the sound, each beat hammering out the truth. He had to confront what lurked in the depths of his choices. The darkened corners beckoned with secrets, and he could feel them slithering just beyond his reach. What awaited him would change everything, and the weight of his decisions loomed overhead like a guillotine. "Claire, I'm coming," he shouted, though silence swallowed his words. But in the shadows, a figure lurked, waiting for the moment to strike. What had he truly unleashed? Only the night would reveal the final act in this twisted tale. Francis raced into the shadows, his heart pounding louder than the chaos behind him. The world around him distorted, filled with fragmented sounds and emotions, whispers of the guests filtering through the cold night air. Where is she? Panic gripped him tighter as he ran toward the edge of the terrace, where darkness thickened like a fog. "Claire!" he shouted again, voice strained, desperate for a response. But only silence answered, wrapping around him like a shroud. The surrounding trees stood like sentinels, tall and unyielding, their branches clawing at the dark sky. Why couldn't she just answer? He felt a presence behind him, the inevitability of uncertainty creeping in as Violet's hand landed gently on his shoulder. "We need to go back, this isn't safe." "No." He whipped around, his eyes ablaze with frustration. "I can't leave her out here. She's in trouble." He knew deep down that he was spiraling, but the thought of Claire alone in the dark felt unbearable. "Francis, please." Her voice trembled, and for a moment, he could see the shine of fresh tears glistening on her cheeks. "If something's out there, we can't face it alone. We need to regroup." A sudden noise, a rustle, drew their attention. They turned, hearts in their throats, but it was only the wind threatening to tear the branches from the trees. Still, that lingering feeling of being watched kept pressing against them, a reminder that danger lurked in the shadows. "Emma." Violet's voice rang out, cutting through the oppressive silence. No answer. "Emma, where are you?" They both flinched as another rustle echoed. The sound ricocheted through the air, a haunting reminder that they weren't alone. Francis couldn't shake the feeling that someone was toying with them, hidden among the trees, waiting for the perfect moment. stay close, he whispered, inching toward the edge of the terrace, scanning for any signs of Claire. Then, just as he was about to move back inside, he froze. A figure stepped into the faint light cast by the glowing moon, hands raised, trembling. Frances. Violet. It was Emma, her voice breaking. But as she stepped closer, he saw her face, twisted with terror. There's something in the house. Claire. He shouted, hope flickering inside him like a dying candle. What do you mean? Is she okay? Emma's breath came in ragged gasps, her eyes wide. No. It's not just Claire, you have to run. We can't stay here. Her gaze darted behind them, as if she expected something to pounce from the shadows at any moment. Why? The desperation clawed at him. Tell me what you saw. I saw shadows, moving, whispering, and then the lights started to flicker again. It's as if something wants. She paused, choking on her words, fighting back tears. It wants us to find it. To take us. A sickening chill crept up Francis' spine. Each word drew tighter around him, pulling him further down into a pit of dread. Could it be the manifestation of his guilt? Or something worse? He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was had a direct connection to Claire. Paralyzed by the thought of losing her, a life thrown away by the same choices he regretted, he gripped Violet's wrist tightly. I won't let anyone else suffer, he vowed, his voice barely a whisper, but the resolve burned bright. We find Claire. Together. With a shudder, he stepped back into the house, Emma trailing beside him, and Violet clutching his other hand. The darkness yawned before them, swallowing the flicker of hope they clung to. Each room felt like a portal to a different nightmare, shadows closing in, wrapping around him, and the hair on the back of his neck prickled with fear. As they ventured further, a loud crash echoed through the house, a sound that seemed the culmination of all their worst fears. Claire. He could feel panic clawing its way up from his gut, each heartbeat pounding like a countdown to catastrophe. But what would they discover in the dark? Would their search illuminate the truth or plunge them deeper into despair? The scream echoed again, clearer this time, as if calling for him. Would he finally uncover Claire's fate or become a victim himself? Francis moved with purpose, each step heavy with fear. The house loomed around him, its once familiar walls now straining under the weight of unseen horrors. Emma and Violet flanked him, hearts pounding in sync, but dread twisted the air thick like fog. Keep quiet, Francis whispered. The silence felt like a live wire, ready to snap at any moment. The next room held a haunting stillness. Flickering lights cast eerie shadows that danced across peeling wallpaper. It felt wrong, as if the walls were closing in, suffocating him with memories of laughter and love now tainted by terror. Claire. He called again, voice breaking slightly. He didn't recognize the rasp in his tone, it was laced with desperation. Suddenly, a soft thud echoed from the hallway. Francis's heart raced faster, blood roaring in his ears. Did you hear that? He turned to Emma, who nodded, eyes wide. Let us check it out, Violet said, her tone wavering. They moved closer together, forming a fragile line against the darkness. As they approached the hallway, another crash reverberated from the end, sending shivers down his spine. Claire. He shouted, afraid silence would mean lost hope. This time, the only response was a low, guttural whisper that sent chills down his arms. Please help. The plea hung in the air, trembling and broken. Claire. Francis shouted again, urgency spiraling. Where are you? It's coming. The voice faded, swallowed by the shadows, but the dread only grew thicker as they reached the corner of the hallway. Light flickered from a room at the end. With a nod from Violet, they pushed the door open, the creaking hinges protesting. What lay before them turned their stomachs. The room was filled with overturned furniture, evidence of a violent struggle. Papers scattered everywhere, and the air was thick with an unsettling silence. Then Francis saw a photograph on the ground, the glass shattered around it. He bent down, heart racing as he picked it up. It was a picture of Claire, smiling, her beauty radiant. But, as he turned it over, horror struck him like a slap. Scribbled on the back in shaky handwriting were the words, "They know what you did." "What does it mean?" Emma asked, peering over his shoulder, eyes darting around in panic. "Who knows what I did?" The words escaped his lips, each syllable bitter as dread pooled in his gut. He felt the walls closing in, not just the space but every choice he ever made. "There!" Violet gasped, pointing to the other end of the room. A heavy door stood slightly ajar, sounds of scuffling emitted from inside. "Claire?" he shouted, adrenaline kicking in as he bolted toward the door. With a shove, he threw it open, revealing a dimly lit cellar filled with dripping pipes and terrifying echoes. The air was clammy, wrapping around him like a tomb. The scene was surreal. Claire was on the ground, visible but unmoving, surrounded by shadows that seemed to swirl and dance, their intentions unfathomable. "Claire!" As he rushed toward her, a heavy weight pressed against his chest, squeezing a scream from his throat. The shadows began to stir, forming into dark silhouettes with too many limbs and vacant eyes, fixing their stares on him. "Get away from her!" Francis lunged forward, arms outstretched, not caring if he'd be taken with her. His instincts screamed at him to protect her. Yet, as he reached her, something grabbed his ankle, a cold grip that sent terror straight through him. Just before the darkness completely engulfed him, he heard a chilling laugh echoing through the cellar, rolling through the air like thunder. Save her, or lose everything. The words hung around him, a sinister temptation. Would he sacrifice himself to save her? In that moment, the ground shifted beneath them, shaking the very foundations of their choices. As he struggled, aware of the shadows closing in, one question kept screaming in his mind: who, or what, would he have to confront to pull Claire back from the edge? The answer lurked in the abyss. Would it surface in time, or would it swallow them both whole? Francis felt the chill enveloping him, pulling him closer to the darkness. Every instinct urged him to flee, yet the silhouette of Claire, unmoving and pale, anchored him in place. Heavy breaths escaped his lips as he fought the icy grasp tightening around his leg. "Claire!" he shouted, desperation twisting his voice. He was close, so close, but the shadows pressed against him, a suffocating mass, their whispers melding into a cacophony of horror. "Get away!" Violet screamed, her voice sharp like glass slicing through the tension. She grabbed Francis's arm, her eyes blazing with frantic energy. "We need to go now." "No. I can't leave her." His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage. The shadows stirred again, beckoning him with a malevolent pull, but he wouldn't be swayed. Not this time. With a surge of resolve, he tore himself free from the shadow's grasp and lunged toward Claire. The air shifted, swirling like a storm. He reached for her, fingers brushing her arm, icy and unyielding. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, revealing a figure emerging from the dark, an ethereal presence with hollow eyes that drank in the light. "You seek to save her?" It rasped, its voice dripping with malice. "But sacrifice is not without cost." Francis felt the weight of those words. The very air around him crackled with tension, intertwining his fate with Claire's. "What do you want?" he demanded, fear igniting fury in his chest. This being held the strings of their destinies, and he was more than willing to fight back. "Your choices, Francis. You have made many unfortunate decisions." The voice twisted through the damp cellar, and the shadows drew tighter. "The blood of your past weighs heavily on you. What will you give to set her free?" A vision shot through his mind, faces twisted in pain, words spoken in anger. The lives he had touched, the choices that had led to this moment, coalesced into an image of his own guilt. "Claire is innocent," he shouted, searching her face. "I won't let you take her." The entity laughed, a low, rumbling sound that filled his chest with dread. "Innocence?" it mocked. "What you believe is innocence bears witness to your own sins." From the corner of his eye, he caught movement. Emma, her back pressed against the wall, trembled as she whispered, "Francis, we have to leave this isn't safe." But he couldn't. He wouldn't. The stakes rose higher. Time slipped away like sand through his fingers, and Claire remained trapped in the dark abyss before him. Summoning every ounce of strength, Francis spoke, "I'll do anything for her." Anything. The figure leaned closer, its gaze penetrating. "Then face your reckoning. Only through embracing your truths can you save her." With a wave of its hand, the shadows shifted, and Francis was propelled backward, crashing into the wall. But in that moment of chaos, a flicker of light broke through, illuminating Claire's face, hinting at something more, a choice he couldn't ignore. "No. Claire." As he scrambled to rise, the cellar began to tremble violently, echoes piercing the air as the epiphany seized him. He had to confront not just the shadows, but the repercussions of his very existence. Save her, or lose everything. The words echoed in his mind, igniting a flame of determination. With one final glance at Claire's still form, he steeled himself. "I will set us free. I'm coming for you." But as he plunged deeper, the chilling question loomed larger. Exactly what would he have to face from the shadows of his past to pull Claire back? And then came the realization, in the pursuit of saving her, he might unravel everything he thought he held dear. Each choice would either bind them together or drive a wedge deeper than the abyss surrounding them. As the cellar engulfed them in darkness again, a deafening silence fell. What laid waiting in the depths of that silence, and would it break him, or would it be the very key to their salvation? The cellar shifted again, shadows swirling like hungry ghosts. The air grew thicker, a tangible weight pressing down on Francis. He could feel Claire's presence slipping away, like water through his fingers. He steadied himself, remembering his mission. Suddenly, the laughter of the entity echoed around him, a dreadful sound that sent chills racing down his spine. "Your truth, Francis. Do you even know what it is?" The question hung in the air, taunting him. He clenched his jaw, recalling every decision that had led him to this moment, the mistakes that haunted him. Every time he had chosen ambition over love, or power over compassion, now reared its ugly head. Each face of betrayal flashed in his mind. People left behind, lives ruined, all tied to him like strings in a wicked puppet show. "Face it, or lose her," the entity hissed, its form flickering like a candle about to extinguish. "You alone decide." Francis's heart pounded as he gripped the cold stones of the wall. "I'm not afraid." The words burst out, though a tremor in his voice betrayed him. "I'll face whatever I need to. Just let her go." The shadows twisted, morphing into dark shapes that began to dance around him. They whispered his secrets in hissing breaths, each lie and regret echoing painfully. They were memories turned to darkness, flashing before him in an endless loop. The night he chose ambition over return home, leaving Claire alone and vulnerable. "Do you see?" the figure crooned. "Every step you took to climb has brought you here. Do you still think you can atone?" "I can, and I will." Francis felt fury swelling inside him, an explosion ready to break free. "Do your worst." "But I won't abandon her." Then, it hit him. A single event he had tried to forget. The night everything went wrong. It filled him with rage and shame. How Claire had looked, eyes filled with hope right before he had turned away. Did he really think he could escape it? A deep rumble resonated through the cellar. The shadows shrieked in response, vibrating around him like shrills of a siren. "The truth is a heavy weight to bear, Francis. Are you ready to carry it?" Terror curled in his gut as he realized what this battle was truly about. It wasn't just about saving Claire, it was about facing himself. He sank to his knees, desperation clawing at him. "Time has run out, hasn't it?" "The choice was yours long before now," the entity whispered, its voice deceptively gentle. "You've lived in shadows, boy." As did she. "No." He gasped, his mind racing. "This isn't her fault. This is on me." The laughter erupted again, loud and cruel, drowning out his words. Then, just as suddenly, silence filled the space, pressing against his ears. "Then witness your truth," the entity intoned. Shadows began converging around him, forming a swirling vortex of memories, each one brighter than the last. The good moments, the laughter, Claire's smile. But with each happy memory came the darker recollections, moments of silence, the betrayal of promises, his own failures screaming at him. The contrast ripped through him, and he felt himself being pulled apart. "Open your eyes to the choice you've made, and the cost of it," the entity commanded, the shadow swirling faster as it fed off his memories, growing in presence and intensity. "Claire!" Francis screamed, hope mixing with despair. The darkness began to swallow the last flickers of light, and he realized he had moments left to pull it back. But salvation seemed to fade, and the darkness loomed larger. Would he find the courage to reclaim the light in time? Or would he lose Claire to the very darkness he created? As the shadows coiled tight, a final chilling question clawed at his mind: would his past condemn them both? Francis felt the pull of despair sinking into him like the weight of 1,000 stones. Dark memories whirled around, choking the air out of his lungs. Each shadow held a fragment of his past debt not paid, truth not told. Images of Claire merged with visions of a life he had turned his back on, forming an emotional maelstrom that threatened to drown him. "Do you know what you've lost, Francis?" The entity taunted, its voice a chilling whisper curling around his thoughts. Every moment of ambition was a heartbeat away from love. He gritted his teeth. "I refuse to let you dig that deep." But deep down, the doubt clawed at him. Did he truly believe he could overcome this darkness? He had avoided the truth for so long, and now it came rushing back, demanding recognition. Fractured moments danced before him, Claire's soothing laughter, the way she lit up the room, then the cold silence that followed his decision to pursue riches instead of love. "I can't change the past," he shouted at the swirling shadows. "But I can change what I do now." "Ah," the entity hissed, the air thickening as it began to coalesce into a darker, more menacing form. "Your present is a reflection of your past. You can't outrun it. It'll always be there." He slammed his fist against the stone wall, rage coursing through him. "What is it you want from me? A confession? A plea for forgiveness? You think it's that simple?" It roared, shadows swirling with a rage of their own, narrowing in on him. "You stand upon the precipice, Francis. Do you dare to leap?" He could feel Claire slipping further away from him. He could almost see her, an outline wrapped in darkness, eyes pleading. "Claire!" He howled, desperation flaring. A blinding light ignited in the darkness, illuminating the cellar but only for a heartbeat before it flickered, casting him back into the void. The entity's laughter rang in his ears, mocking, echoing through the space. "Face your truth," it exclaimed. "Only then can you illuminate the shadows." The air crackled with tension as he steadied himself. He could harness the light within him, he believed it. Not just for Claire, but for every soul he had wronged. His fists clenched as tears pricked his eyes. No more running. No more hiding from the darkness he had caused. "Okay," he breathed, almost to himself. "Okay. What do I have to do?" "Admit your failure. Accept your truth. Only then can you hope to change your fate and hers." The shadows tightened around him like chains. He shuddered, realizing the severity of the task ahead. I have sacrificed too much." His voice was trembling but growing stronger. "I sacrificed my heart for a dream that left me empty. I betrayed those I loved for the status I wanted." The shadows shifted, blinking in and out of existence, as if weighing his words. Fear and determination battled within him, his heart surged with the possibility of redemption. "Now face me," he shouted, pushing his chest out, summoning every last shred of courage. "I'm ready to end this." Just then, he felt a tug, a shift in the air. Outside forces were beginning to respond. The entity shrieked, rattled by the depth of his confession. But its form solidified, growing larger, and its laughter returned, even more sinister than before. "Oh, how delightful, Francis. Confrontation is the art of living." Suddenly, he was plunged into darkness once more, consumed by swirling shadows. The laughter faded, replaced by a deafening silence. Would he lose himself in this chaos? Or would the light he finally embraced pull him through? As he gasped for breath in the suffocating shadow, an unmistakable voice echoed, soft yet filled with sorrow, "Francis Clare?" He whispered, heart racing. But before he could respond, a new shadow emerged from the depths, and he heard that haunting laughter again, "One truth to bind them all, and one sacrifice must be made to save the other." What choice would Francis face, and what would it cost him? The shadows shrieked, swirling violently around him, pulling Francis into their cold embrace. "One truth to bind them all" echoed in his mind, each word striking him like a nail. The weight of forgotten decisions pressed harder, and the laughter pierced the silence like a knife, dragging him further into the abyss. "Claire," he cried out into the void, his heart pounding against his rib cage. The soul-deep yearning to be reunited with her intensified. He felt desperate fingers reach for him through the darkness, a touch, a presence, something real. But it slipped away like smoke. The entity loomed closer, a shadowy titan with deep, hollow eyes. "You can claw your way back to love, Francis, but first, you must confront the truth you've avoided." "What truth?" His voice shook, but he forced it out, willing the fear to dissipate. "What more could I possibly sacrifice?" "Everything," it murmured, the shadows tightening once more. "Your cowardice and your betrayal have consequences. Choices, Francis. You must relive your biggest mistake." Suddenly, he was cast into a vivid replay of his life's darkest moment. He saw himself standing in the lavishly decorated boardroom, his colleagues congratulating him on his promotion, the shiny gold watch resting heavily on his wrist. Proud smiles surrounded him, but one face in the corner tarnished the joy. Claire, her eyes shimmering with love and confusion, waiting for him outside, unaware of the betrayal he sealed that day. "No. Not this." He tried to escape, but the shadows gripped tighter, forcing him to watch. Sounds of laughter blurred into a mocking chorus. "Can you still taste the victory?" The entity sneered, as the image twisted. Claire's smile faded. "Francis, where were you?" "I waited," she whispered. The pain in her voice cut deeper than any knife. "I was pursuing my dream," he shouted, the truth spilling out of him like poison. "I thought success could fill the emptiness." "And it left you hollow, didn't it?" The entity hissed. "You gained the world and lost your soul." The scene shifted again, this time to a dark street corner where Claire stood in tears, holding a pregnancy test, the words positive glaring back at him. "You have a choice to make," the entity reminded him cruelly. "What will you do? Back again at the fork in the road? Will you abandon her again?" "No." Francis trembled, caught in the crossfire of guilt and fear. What had he done? The echoes of voices ran through him, each one a reminder of Claire's sacrifice. "Choose wisely." The entity roared as the visions intensified. Broken promises and shattered dreams exploded before him, each flash a reminder of his failures, each face he'd let down screaming for his acknowledgement. "Enough!" he shouted defiantly. Faced with the crumbling past, he leaned into the pain, facing the truth. "I was selfish. I betrayed Claire, and I need to face those consequences." The shadows released their grip momentarily, flickering in surprise. "You dare to admit your sins?" "Yes. She deserves better. I can't just let her sacrifice become meaningless." The shadows shrank back, anxious but intrigued. The air crackled with burgeoning energy. A flicker of light whispered through the darkness, teasing him with the potential for redemption. "I need to save her." His voice became a rallying cry, charging through the silence. But before he could process what that meant, the laughter returned, this time victorious, echoing like thunder. Then prepare for what is to come, it echoed ominously. Because sacrifice isn't easy, and love won't be enough. He staggered forward, heart racing, wondering if he was truly ready to face what lay ahead. What sacrifice awaited him? Would saving Claire be worth the price he'd have to pay? As the shadows writhed and reality blurred, Francis stood at the edge of a new precipice, caught between light and dark, a heartbeat away from a choice that could alter everything once more. And in that moment, a chilling realization came: sometimes love demands more than a confession, sometimes it demands everything. Could he really withstand the turmoil of confronting his past, or would the shadows reclaim him once more? A storm of doubt raged within him, leaving one burning question lingering in the air: what would he lose if he chose to save her? The darkness pulled back like an ominous tide, revealing a distorted view of his life, a life he had thought was destined for greatness. The flickering light blended memories and regret, weaving images that bubbled with emotion. The entity stood almost indifferently, watching him descend deeper into his thoughts. "Do you understand now?" it mocked. "This is the moment you've circled back to. Confront it, or let it consume you entirely." Francis felt the weight of inevitability pressing down on him. Memories surged, highs and lows tangled together like wires, leaving him gasping for clarity. As he squinted against the brightness, Claire's face shimmered out of focus, but her eyes were as piercing as ever, full of both love and betrayal. "Choose, Francis." The entity's presence bore down, deepening each painful breath. "You cannot avoid this." "I can't," he yelled, frustration boiling over. "What am I supposed to do? I made my choice, and now she's gone." "I can't just gone?" "Is she truly gone?" The entity leaned closer, its hollow eyes drilling into his very essence. "Or are you the one who lets her slip away with your cowardice?" The resolve that had begun to build ebbed, replaced by cold dread. Could it be? Had he pushed her from his life out of fear? He recalled the missed calls, the unanswered texts, the moments he allowed his ambitions to drown out her voice. Flashes of her laughter filled the void, interspersed with sobs of sorrow. "You left me," she said, both a question and an accusation. "Why, Francis? It was never meant to be like this," he cried, desperation lacing his words. "I thought success would make me worthy of you. I thought it would fix everything. And instead, you lost yourself." The shadows thickened again, morphing into agonizing forms. Familiar faces of friends turned to whispering ghosts of disappointment. "You took the high road and abandoned her to the darkness." "I hurt her." The realization slammed into him with the force of a tidal wave. Claire had been his light, yet he allowed greed to extinguish it. "But I want to make it right." The entity swirled in delight. "Ah, and therein lies the paradox. How does one heal a wound they inflicted? What are you willing to sacrifice to mend a heart you shattered?" "Anything. I'll do anything." He felt the shadows dissipate, revealing yet another vision. The grim hospital room flickered to life, where Claire lay unconscious, white sheets contrasted against her pale skin. A pulse monitor beeped steadily, but the lines were jagged as if they too fought against the inevitable. "Claire," he whispered, horrified. Everything hung on a knife's edge. "I can't lose you again. I can't. Yet here you are at the mercy of your own decisions," the entity crooned, dissolving into a sinister mist. "To save her, you must gamble everything. Risks that even a man of your stature may not be willing to face." "Not again, please. I'll fight for her." Francis found an unexpected strength rising. Nothing mattered more than Claire. Whispers of revenge and regret fused with an unyielding sense of purpose. "Then accept your fate," it hissed. "But be warned, the consequences may seize not only your fate, but your very soul." In that fleeting moment, the heavy dread morphed into a fierce determination. Francis's heart thundered in his chest like a war drum. He would find a way to save Claire, no matter the price. But the shadows began swirling again, darker than ever, signaling the crossroads where he'd face foes from his past, his own reflection, and the regrets he had buried deep. As Francis steadied himself, another horrifying thought twisted in the back of his mind. What if saving Claire cost him everything that remained of his fragile soul? As the entity vanished into the void, he braced himself. One choice lay ahead. Would he risk it all? And as he took a step forward, a sinister laugh echoed behind him, melting into silence, a haunting reminder that the path to redemption might lead him deeper than he ever intended to go. What awaited him in those shadows? Only one way to find out. The air shifted, heavy with anticipation as Francis steadied himself, ready to face the tormenting shadows. He could feel them clinging to him like a second skin, a chilling embrace that threatened to suffocate him. But there was no turning back now. With every heartbeat, he confronted the dark truths he had avoided for too long: deceit, betrayal, and an unshakable guilt haunting his every step. "Claire!" he shouted again, voice fierce. The hope that she could hear him drove him forward, his determination igniting with each pulse of warmth against the encroaching cold. The shadows twitched and narrowed as if responding to his strength. "You think your voices will pull her from the abyss?" the entity hissed, its voice dripping with disdain. "What will you do next? Throw empty apologies in the dark?" "No." Francis took a trembling step forward, defiance surging within him. "I will face my failures. Each mistake led me to this moment, but I won't let you take her." With courage bolstering him, he lunged towards the swirling darkness, pushing through the suffocating weight that tried to drag him down. The air crackled with an electric energy as the shadows shifted, growing impatient. For every step he took, a cacophony of his past surged around him, each haunting moment echoing his failures. "Dare to confront your truth?" the entity mocked, morphing into figures of those he had hurt, friends lost to ambition, Claire bathed in sorrow, each face carrying a piece of his burden. "You cannot run from this. Stop!" he shouted, rage boiling over. "You're nothing but the manifestation of my regrets." Facing the shadows filled him with a fresh fury. Facing them is the only way to rescue Claire from you. The darkness recoiled, flickering uncertainly. Francis pressed on, memories flooding back. He could almost see Claire's eyes sparkling with hope, her voice sweet and unwavering. "You were my light, Claire. I chased shadows instead of cherishing you." The weight of those words lingered, igniting something powerful within him. Each confession fanned the flames of awakening. "I made choices driven by fear," he shouted, his conviction boiling over. "But I see that now. With your light gone, I am nothing but an empty shell." The entity shrieked, shadows swirling violently. "Cowardice bespeaks your fate." "Then I will be brave," Francis countered, rage morphing into resolve. "I will sacrifice everything to pull her back from the edge." In that moment, brilliance shattered the darkness, a blinding light igniting the cellar, a beacon forged from truths bared and promises renewed. Claire appeared, ethereal, her outline blurring against the shadows. "Francis," she whispered, a haunting echo that tethered their fates together. "No." The entity writhed in agony, shadows collapsing into itself as it fought against the light's encroachment. "You cannot claim her. She belongs to the darkness." Suddenly, a surge of energy coursed through Francis as the shadows took a step back, recoiling from the warmth of his deeper emotions and the possibility of redemption. "She belongs with me," he roared, his voice a clarion call, filled with fierce love. With one last push, the light engulfed the fading darkness, illuminating the truth that had once eluded him. "You cannot drown this love," he declared. "All the ambition in the world couldn't fill the void you left. I will face my sins if it means saving Claire." In an explosion of fervor, the light pulsed outwards, illuminating the cellar with a warmth that banished the shadows. Claire's form shimmered, slowly becoming anchored in the brilliant light. Francis could see her clearly now, reaching out toward him, hope flickering in her beautiful eyes. "Come to me, Claire," he urged, stepping through the fading darkness, stretching out his hand. But he could feel the shadows attempting a last desperate grasp, whispering to him. The price for her is everything you've built. I do not care, he proclaimed, voice firm, ready for sacrifice. Everything I am means nothing without her. As he sprung forward, arms outstretched, the darkness exploded, the force of his reckoning shattering the sinister presence into dust. He felt the weight of their past crumble, pieces of regret evaporated under the brilliance of his love for Claire, and she fell into his embrace. Francis, she breathed, warmth flooding from her into him, igniting hope where despair had been. He held her tightly, relief washing over their entwined souls like a balm. I thought I lost you, I thought I would never find you again. Love found its way, just as I knew it would, she whispered, tears of joy mingling with sadness as they fell into each other's arms. In the soft glow of light, a new beginning emerged from the past's destruction. A fragile peace settled in the air around them, a promise that whispered through the shadows now lifeless on the ground. Together, they stepped back into the world, hand in hand, facing a new dawn. Francis looked at Claire, her resilience shining brightly. He felt lighter, unburdened by the weight of his choices because he had finally chosen her, and that made all the difference. This was their time for healing, rebirth, and a love that was deeper than before. As the radiant sun broke through the horizon, Francis turned to the camera with a determined gaze. This is our story, but there are many out there waiting to be told. If you have enjoyed this journey with us, the adventure continues. Subscribe immediately to catch the next chapter, slam that like button to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments with your thoughts about this ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, and together, we'll explore more compelling tales. Join us.